right, two Republican senators have come down with a severe case of summertime blues thanks to President Obama's poorly mismanaged stimulus plan. Now, Senators Tom Coburn and John McCain have released a report that lists 100 of the most ridiculous projects funded by the stimulus. Now, the report is called Summertime Blues, and it describes just how careless the government has been in spending billions of your hard-earned tax dollars. And tonight, well, we'd like to highlight a few of these for you. Now, we begin in the great state of Washington, home of Mount St. Helens, where more than $500,000 is being spent to replace windows on a visitor center there. But there's just one itsy-bitsy problem. The site receiving the funds is currently closed and no reopen date has been set. We move on to Pittsburgh, where upwards of $62 million are being spent on what is described in the report as a, quote, tunnel to nowhere. And kudos, by the way, to Governor Ed Rendell, who has come out and publicly criticized the project. Next up, a national park in Florida that houses Fort Jefferson, located near Key West. Now, the park is one of Florida's least popular tourist destinations, so naturally the government plans to funnel $13 million into repairs there. Now, sadly, it gets worse. According to the report, the Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center was awarded more than $71,000 to study the effects that cocaine has on monkeys. I'd like the president and vice president to explain how that project will put Americans back to work. Here with reaction are the host of Varney and Company on the Fox Business Network. You can see on his face he's outraged. Stuart Varney, and Fox News contributor, former White House press secretary Dana Perino.
You said poorly managed. This is the worst managed economic program in recent history. Poorly designed, poorly managed, you name it, this thing is a failure. The administration is desperate to portray it as some kind of a success. It stopped us going into a depression, or it saved 3 million jobs. It is an absolute failure from top to bottom. It is a waste of an enormous amount of money, and it's going to have to be carried around the Democrats' neck into the election in November.
Now, we went through two specials on the program, full one-hour specials about waste, fraud, abuse, mismanagement of stimulus fund. This is a tip of the iceberg.
Well, I think it's important, I think, to point out that the White House said today that half of these are false and that they've already been debunked. But they weren't specific in their report in terms of the statement that I saw.
Yeah, well, what's debunked?
Was the money spent on cocaine for monkeys or not?
Let's get to the answer
here. You hit the nail on the head at the end, which is, even if half of them were false, that means half of them are accurate. Yeah. And, for example, here, you had $760,000 to Georgia Tech to study improvised music. And the point of that is, how is that going to help anybody who's unemployed create jobs that will then beget new jobs? Well, and that is what's missing in their whole equation and really hurting them in November.
I've been wanting to ask both of you this all day. Tim Geithner goes on with George Stephanopoulos today. Unemployment could go up before it goes down. Now, first of all, what a startling admission. We've got, 1, 2, 3 more months of unemployment reports. It's expected that it's going to go up. So they're trying, I guess, warn the American people.
This is all part of the defense of the stimulus program, the defense of Obama's economic policy. They have to say it is a success. Things are improving. So Tim Geithner gets out there in his editorial today and basically says it's okay. Unemployment may go up a little bit. That's quite normal. But basically things are okay. Sean, they are not okay, and everybody knows it. Mass unemployment, a housing crisis, a very slow economy, which is actually slowing down some more. It's a desperate rearguard action.
My favorite part of the day was how Tim Geithner, the Secretary of the Treasury, had an op-ed today in the New York Times. And the headline said, "Welcome to the recovery."
Whoa,
and I thought, well, if this is the recovery, what would be worse?
I said that. Well, look at the Gallup poll, for example. The president's near the 30% mark. He's
at 41%.
He's at 41, but he's about
almost
in the 30s. Okay, that's the way to put it. But if you look at this, if you look at the generic ballot poll, if you look at, Republicans now have an enormous lead, 11 points in one poll. Enthusiasm, 44 to 22%. Great point.
Right, and also not only that, but Sean, I wrote down 65%, because 65% of the American people are not buying the line that of the blame Bush, Bush line going into it, and so they're really in a fix because that's what they've used for the past 18 months to get to this point. They don't have a record that they feel strong enough that they can run on, and so they're trying to blame the former president. But I can't imagine there's many people sitting on a house they can't sell that's worried about what Bush would do.
If that argument were working, first of all, they're not running on their votes. No, there's no congressman or congresswoman out there that's going to run on their record, the stimulus, health care, any of these things. I think the greatest indicator, though, is the president goes to Georgia, is going to Texas. No Democrat, no prominent Democrat wants to be seen near him, Stuart.
Let me go out on a limb for a second.
Go ahead.
The stock market has rallied very nicely recently. Yeah, corporate profits are good, and that's one of the reasons. I suspect there's another reason, because investors see the Republicans sweeping the House in November, which would mean a turnaround in economic policy and a turnaround from the dismal failure that we've got already. That's part of the reason why the stock market has rallied. Now, I'm out on a limb with that.
Let me just tell you something. It is early, and just from my previous experience at the White House for so many years, something always happens in August, and nobody has any idea what it is. We dealt with Russia invading Georgia. We had Hurricane Katrina. We had a war in the Middle East in terms of Israel and Lebanon going at it. So something always happens. Nobody knows what it is, and it could really change things for November.
Any day I'm on vacation. That's the day it's going to happen.
Well, it also happens when the president's team is on vacation. You know, people scatter to the winds. Everybody does need and deserve a break, but something always happens.
By the way, you've been doing a great job, right, Stuart? Hosting Philly and Progressive.
Thank you. Having fun.
All right.
Rising star.
We've been saying it. All right, guys, thank you very much. And there is plenty more Hannity still to come.